Teslas are only able to do like the self-driving if there's like lines on the road, right?
Yeah.
So is yours going to be able to actually self-drive on like a country road that's not even paved and doesn't have like those lines?
Yeah, Tesla is a level 2 vehicle. They do intelligent lane assist. It's called, it's driver assistance basically, essentially on highways. We are level 4 of autonomy, meaning we can recognize traffic lights, we can recognize stop signs, we can intelligently drive roads, pretty much any type of roads, although the ones that are not marked are more complicated. But the machine is going to be trained on those roads eventually, and then we'll be able to do that. So there's a big difference between what Tesla is doing and what we're doing. In particular, because we're using some LiDARs. Tesla so far has not been using LiDARs.
Hi, so first of all, I think it's pretty amazing. But from what I understood, the laws in the United States that you need a driver in the vehicle, right? So is this basically the only thing that's stopping you from innovating the self-driving car, or what is the next step? Are you going to go for the government?
So this is perhaps the first time in the industry of the world, or in the history of the world, or the history in the industry, where in the United States the legislator is moving faster than the technology, and it's pretty incredible. And I really respect a lot the legislators for that. In Arizona, it's totally open for business. You can today go to Arizona and put a vehicle on the street that has no steering wheel and no pedals. It's allowed. California just passed a bill on April 2nd, so 2 months ago, allowing companies to apply for a permit to remove the safety driver already. So if the technology was ready, we could remove the safety driver today in California.
Okay, that's pretty cool. How are you going to make sure that it's really the guy who should get the delivery? So that they
there's an app, and when the merchant loads up the vehicle, the name and the address of the customer is linked to a compartment, and so the computer does the reverse when it comes to a customer location, and the customer will only see the compartment, will only be able to open the compartment where his or her goods are, just by the press of a button. Yeah, you have it. I'll come back.
So how do you think the next 30 years for the economy and the technology is going to be? Because I read that China by 2025 is going to be completely self-sufficient in manufacturing the technology themselves. So how do you intend to compete with companies that are based in China and only the Chinese are allowed to do it in China? Like the companies coming out of there, because they'll be completely self-sufficient to do it.
It's a great question. It's a race. There's no doubt about that, and it's going to be a tough race, which is again why it's so important for the U.S. legislator to allow this technology to happen, and so to enable us to compete, because the market here is smaller than the Chinese market. Now, what I think is that at the same time that the Chinese don't let foreign companies operate on their territory, they also have a market that's so big in their own country that they may not be as interested into going in other countries as quickly as they do in their country, which lets us time to do United States and Europe. So hopefully that's the way it's going to happen, but we got to go fast.
Will you be demonstrating that vehicle, and can I take a ride around it?
No, you won't be able to take a ride, but we'll show you the cargo space, how it works.
Who are your current customers?
We have 7 customers operating right now, and 2 that have signed with us, and we're going to start operating. We started with a grocery store in Silicon Valley called Drapers Market, which is down the street here, and that was our first customer. And so we're doing all the deliveries for Drapers within a certain radius of the store. Then we added a couple of restaurants, then we added a florist, then we added a auto parts distributor, which is a great customer because they do the same routes every day to a series of dealerships. We have a fruit delivery company. So those are local businesses, and we're at the same time conducting discussions with some of the largest retailers in the world, and some of them we'll be announcing soon in other locations in the United States.
You mentioned using CN as a convolutional neural networks, and my company uses them as well. And while we do like them, we sometimes face problems on detection, and especially when we try to transfer the information, the transfer that we do. Do you ever fear that something might be mixed up?
Yeah.
And I don't know, the brakes don't work because of it. Does that ever bother you?
I'm not too worried about a mechanical problem, like the brakes don't work. Well, it's just, in general, vehicles can brake. So we're not, we're actuating the brakes with a motor, but in general, the brakes will work. What might happen, and it's actually been the case in the Uber crash that you might have heard of in Arizona, is it looks like it was a perception issue. A second and a half before the crash actually happened, the computer classified the woman and the bicycle as a non-object. Because the difficulty of those perception issues or the classification is that you don't want to have false negatives or false positives. So the computer has to make a quasi-instant decision as to what it actually sees. So a second and a half, it was classified as a non-object. A second before, so half a second later, it recognized something but wasn't able to classify it. And then a half second before the crash, it finally detected that it was an object, but the computer made the decision that it didn't have enough time to brake because it's a passenger car and it might be rear-ended and create a bigger accident. So it's this famous conundrum which is complicated to solve for passenger cars. Do I kill the pedestrian, or do I kill the passengers in the vehicle, or do I kill people behind me? And that's a very complicated decision. Which is one of the major reasons why I was saying I think delivery is probably going to be one of the first bigger applications, because at least we don't have to make that decision. We always protect the pedestrian.
What is the current? You mentioned electric, fuel, but it seemed like you also mentioned gas stations. What's the current?
Yeah, that's a whole different debate, we're not here to solve it, so we're going with the industry. When I started this business, and this is why you have this vehicle, is we're in California. It'd be suicidal, not to go with an electric vehicle. It turns out that electric vehicles are not very well suited today with the existing battery technology and the energy density of batteries for first utility vehicles, and second, autonomous driving utility vehicles. First of all, utility vehicles, because the vehicles are supposed to be on the road 80% of the time, whereas for a passenger car, it's idle 90% of the time, so you have time to recharge. But for a vehicle that has to be on the road for 80% of the time, you don't have time to recharge. Second of all, it's an electric vehicle is still much more expensive than a gas vehicle, and stores, retailers, they care about money, they care a lot less about anything else. Third is that when you add to this the computing equipment and the need to operate the sensors and to operate the steering wheel and the pedals, you draw a lot more power than actually the power needed for the propulsion of the vehicle itself. So you end up having the need for a battery that's twice as big, or maybe not twice, but like 1.5 times as big as the battery that would be needed for the propulsion of the vehicle, which in turn create more weight. So then you need a heavier battery for propulsion. So it's a very complicated vicious circle, if you will, that the industry hasn't resolved yet, unfortunately.
I saw an article in Wired magazine a couple days ago. It was mentioning Neuro, I think one of your competitors, I guess.
Yeah.
So how's competition going?
So Neuro is a very different vehicle. They got a lot of press attention because they raised a lot of money, and they're two ex-Googlers. But it's a very different vehicle. Neuro started from a sidewalk, being a sidewalk robot, like you might have heard of, Starship Technologies. There's at least 20 companies in the world today doing sidewalk robots. And then realized that sidewalks may not be the best idea because you got pedestrians on sidewalk. And children and everything. And so they said how we're going to transform our sidewalk robot to going on public roads. And so they created something that's a little bit bigger. It's kind of a hybrid between a sidewalk robot and an actual vehicle that is certified to go on public roads. And it's cool, but it's going very slow. It can carry only 2 customers at a time at best. And also, I'm not sure it's actually certified by the Department of Transportation as an actual category vehicle, because you might not see it. It's like it's smaller. So if you have a Class 8 truck, you know, going closer to this thing, you can roll over it without even seeing it. So I don't know how the DOT and NHTSA is going to classify this kind of a vehicle. I don't know about the future of that.